Now, I spoke about this earlier in the show. Biden has claimed he's unsure whether he has the power to use executive action to turn away migrants, to potentially close the southern border. I detailed how he hasn't had so much regard for the Supreme Court, particularly when it came to things like student loans that he wanted to erase. We know what Donald Trump did with executive actions to close the southern border. How can it be true that he couldn't also have powers to do something about migration?
Because Biden doesn't listen to the Constitution. He listens to the left-wing pressure groups that are telling him, we're going to be very upset if you take on a policy that people will say you're borrowing from bad orange man, Donald Trump. And I have to tell you, Biden was knocked down by the Supreme Court on student loans, as you referenced earlier. And what did he say? Well, I'll try a different approach. I'll salami slice it. I'll take one group of students and forgive their loans and see if that works. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say the Supreme Court doesn't have any say in this, and at the same time claim that the Supreme Court is going to be the all-high arbiter of everything that you agree with. So it's picking and choosing, but that's not how our system is supposed to work.
And then, of course, you've got the people who are already in the country. And I mean, you've only got to look at New York City. They're dealing with a wave of migrant crime. But immigration experts are basically saying it's incredibly difficult, both legally and logistically, for the feds to remove migrants before they've actually been convicted of a crime. And part of this comes from the city's sanctuary laws, which of course bar local police from contacting US immigration and customs enforcement. I mean, as I said in my editorial at the top of the show, why, if you were thinking of going somewhere in the world, why would you not want to be an illegal immigrant in the US? I mean, you're basically encouraged to do it, and the system is set up in your favour.
Well, it's very sad because we have over 1 million people who have been waiting patiently in line to either renew their green cards, permits to live in the United States, or to get new ones. They, of course, have paid hundreds of dollars in legal fees and are still not getting due process. People who walk across the border, they're taking advantage of these laws that many of these cities passed 20, 30 years ago, declaring themselves sanctuary cities, basically moral breastfeeding that they were good people. Well, now that the migrants are landing on their doorstep and costing them tremendous amounts of money and also disruption on the streets and crime, they of course won't change their sanctuary laws. They're just calling on the federal government to send more money. It's a classic example of how badly governed American cities are. Rather than fix the problem, they continue to keep the political correctness that they so dearly love, and the victims, of course, are often the minorities, the legal minorities who live in the states.
To this point, John, have a look at what a legal migrant said to the former Republican presidential primary candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay, what's your name?
Fabio. I'm Colombian. Listen,
Oh, you
listen
are?
to me. I'm Colombian. I'm legal. I'm citizen.
Good, thank you.
Over-
Saying that people come to this country illegally.
But let me tell you something. Americans are so naive, they don't understand. They took over the crime in Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Venezuela. They're real criminals. They don't
Literally, they're
understand
just
it.
exporting the criminals to this country.
They don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I understand it.
Americans are so naive, they don't get it.
Yeah, well, we're going to make sure that
They will destroy America.
So naive, he says, and I don't think he's wrong.
No, in fact, I'll give you an example from my native California. A few weeks ago, it was found that a group of young Chileans, young males between 18 and 25, were flying regularly into Los Angeles, casing out very wealthy neighborhoods, and then burglarizing them, and then selling the proceeds on the internet or through various fences. They were calling it shopping tourism. They would come to the United States, shop around, steal whatever they wanted, and then fly back to Chile and plan their next excursion back to the United States. That's not what our country is supposed to be about. We want immigrants. We want legal immigrants. What we don't want is the disrespect of the entire world, which doesn't believe we're a real country because we no longer have real borders.
Just very quickly, John, Donald Trump's request to delay his hush money criminal trial was denied on Wednesday, which is the third time this week his lawyers' attempts to delay the trial have failed. It's set for April 15, which of course is in just a few days. Do we expect that that will be the case? It'll go ahead then?
Yes, this was the first indictment and it will be the first trial. It's the weakest trial. Even liberal legal commentators have noted that this is a novel approach, breaking every former precedent of law. That doesn't mean much, though, with a New York jury, unless there's a surprising holdout juror who leads to a hung jury. People would generally believe that Donald Trump will be convicted. But the charges are so strained and so far away from what I think are more serious charges, like the obstruction of justice and concealing classified documents. I don't think it will have a major political effect on the Trump campaign.
One thing I think is for certain is it was probably the worst hush money paid of all time. John Fund, thank you for your time.